Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for September 29th's lesson in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. Lesson 272 out of the original edition. How can illusions satisfy God's Son? How can illusions satisfy God's Son? Now look at this little interesting little spider that's crawling on me. Let's see if I can let you see I don't know what kind that is. He just spun a web and dropped to the ground. How can illusion satisfy God's Son? Father, the truth belongs to me. My home is set in heaven by your will and mine. Can dreams content me? Can illusions bring me happiness? What but your memory can satisfy your Son? I will accept no less than you have given me. I am surrounded by your love, forever still, forever gentle, and forever safe. God's Son must be as you created him. Today we pass illusions by, and if we hear temptation call us to stay and linger in a dream, we turn aside and ask ourselves if we, the sons of God, could be content with dreams, when heaven can be chosen just as easily as hell, and love will happily replace all fear. You know, that last paragraph, which is one sentence. Let's read it again. Today we pass illusions by. That's two sentences. There's your first sentence. And if we hear temptation call to us to stay and linger in a dream, we turn aside and ask ourselves, as we, the sons of God, could be... Let's read that again. And if we hear temptation call to us to stay and linger in a dream, we turn aside and ask ourselves if we, the sons of God, could be content with dreams, when heaven can be chosen just as easily as hell, and love will happily replace all fear. The choice should be obvious. And we're going to be talking a lot about choice in our text reading today. Let's go there. And then we'll come back and read what is the Christ, and we'll read that one more time. How can illusions satisfy God's Son? In our text reading, we are ready for Be Vigilant for God and His Kingdom, which is in chapter 6, Attack and Fear, and we're in section 5, The Only Answer, and we're ready for paragraph 82, Be Vigilant only for God and His Kingdom. For your own salvation, you must be critical, since your salvation is critical. It's critical to the whole sonship. We said before that the Holy Spirit is evaluative, and must be, yet His evaluation does not extend beyond you, or you would share it. In your mind, and your mind only, He sorts out the true from the false and teaches you to judge every thought that you allow to enter your mind in the light of what God put there. Whatever is in accord with this light, He retains to strengthen the kingdom in you. Whatever is partly in accord with truth, He accepts and purifies. But what is out of accord entirely, He rejects by judging against. This is how He keeps the kingdom perfectly consistent and perfectly unified. What you must remember, however, is that what the Holy Spirit rejects, the ego accepts. This is because they are in fundamental disagreement about everything, being in fundamental disagreement about what you are. The ego's beliefs on this crucial issue vary, and that is why it promotes different moods. The Holy Spirit never varies on this point, and so the one mood He engenders is joy. He protects it by rejecting everything that does not foster joy. And He alone can keep you wholly joyous. So why wouldn't we want to choose the Holy Spirit's guidance, the one voice that speaks for joy? The Holy Spirit does not teach your mind to be critical of other minds, because He does not want you to teach errors and learn them yourselves. He would hardly be consistent if He allowed you to strengthen what you must learn to avoid. In the mind of the thinker, then, He is judgmental, but only in order to unify the mind so it can perceive without judgment. This enables the mind to teach without judgment, and therefore to learn to be without judgment. The undoing is necessary only in your mind, so that you can project falsely. So you cannot project falsely. The undoing is necessary only in your mind, so that you cannot project falsely. God Himself has established what you can project with perfect safety. Therefore, the Holy Spirit's third lesson is be vigilant only for God and His kingdom. 86. This is a major step toward fundamental change. Yet it is still a lesson in thought reversal, since it implies that there is something you must be vigilant against. It has advanced far from the first lesson, which was primarily a reversal, and also from the second, which was essentially the identification of what is more desirable. So the first lesson, to have, give all to all. And the second lesson, to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. Well, now we're at this third step. This step, which follows from the second, as the second follows from the first, emphasizes the dichotomy between the desirable and the undesirable. It therefore makes the ultimate choice inevitable. 87. While the first step seems to increase conflict, remember how it seems to increase conflict if you're looking at things from an upside down perspective? To have, give all to all. And the ego says that's insane, but the soul says, that's what we want to learn. So we want to give all to all. That's how we get to keep it. And then the second step, to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. We've kind of selected that what's really important to be given all is our peace, so that we can receive it, and that's how we learn peace. While the first step seems to increase conflict, and the second step still entails it to some extent, this one calls for consistent effort against it. We said already that you can be as vigilant against the ego as for it. This lesson teaches not only that you can be, but that you must be. It does not concern itself with order of difficulty, but with clear-cut priority for vigilance. This step is unequivocal in that it teaches there must be no exceptions, although it does not deny that the temptation to make exceptions will occur. Here, then, your consistency is called on despite chaos. Yet chaos and consistency cannot coexist for long, since they are mutually exclusive. As long as you must be vigilant against anything, however, you are not recognizing this mutual exclusiveness, and are holding the belief that you can choose either one. By teaching what to choose, the Holy Spirit will ultimately be able to teach you that you need not choose at all. This will finally liberate your will from choice and direct it towards creation within the kingdom. Choosing through the Holy Spirit will lead you to the kingdom. You create by what you are, but this is what you must learn. The way to learn it is inherent in the third step, which brings together the lessons implied in the others and goes beyond them towards real integration. If you allow 89, if you allow yourselves to have in your minds only what God put there, you are acknowledging your minds as God created it. Therefore you are accepting it as it is. Since it is whole, you are teaching peace because you believe in it. The final step will still be taken for you by God. But by the third step, the Holy Spirit has prepared you for God. He is getting you ready for the translation of having into being by the very nature of the steps you must take with Him. You learn first that having rests on giving and not on getting. Next, you learn that you learn what you teach and what you want to learn, and that what you want to learn, next you learn that you learn what you teach and that you want to learn peace. This is the condition for identifying with the kingdom, since it is the condition of the kingdom. You have believed that you are without the kingdom and have therefore excluded yourself from it in your belief. It is therefore essential to teach you that you must be included, and that the belief that you are not is the only thing that you must exclude. The belief that you're not is what you have to exclude, because you are part of it. 91. The third step is thus one of protection for your minds, allowing you to identify only with the center, where God placed the altar to Himself. We've already said that altars are beliefs. Nice idea, isn't it? Altars are beliefs. But God and His creations are beyond beliefs, because they are beyond question. The voice for God speaks only for belief beyond question, which is the preparation for being without question. As long as belief in God and His kingdom is assailed by any doubts in your minds, His perfect accomplishment is not apparent to you. This is why you must be vigilant on God's behalf. The ego speaks against His creation and therefore does engender doubt. You cannot go beyond belief until you believe fully. Maybe we better stop there for today. Let's maybe write on here for tomorrow. We'll be ready for this paragraph 92, which will probably start in 91. All right, and then we'll finish that tomorrow. And I think that finishes the chapter, actually. And then our next chapter will be the consistency of the kingdom. So that's where we want to reach to. There's that place where we're consistent, where we don't have to be vigilant for God and His kingdom because we're consistently there. I don't know if I think that's how you'd say it. We go beyond belief to the consistency of the kingdom. Anyway, let's go take a look at what is the Christ. As you're turning there, let me tell you just a moment about this plant I've got here. This is what do they call it? A Montauk Daisy or a Nippon Daisy. It's native to either Japan or China. Grows both there. I'm not sure that they know where it originally originated from. But it grows along the coasts of China, kind of a succulent looking leaf. It's hardy in my zone, zone 6. It's hardy up to zone 5. It'll die back after the first frost. It'll stay green a little bit after some mild frost. Hard frost will kill back the top growth, and it's a perennial, come back, and it blooms late in the summer. So there's one in bloom. I looked quite a bit, couldn't find any real clear indications of what it's been used for in food or medicine, so we'll have to do our research on that. The scientific name is Nipponanthemum, not chrysanthemum, a Nipponanthemum, and that's the genus, and the species is Nipponicum. Anyway, like I said, I'm not real sure what uses, but you know what? It's so pretty, and it's got to be healing just from the fact that it's beautiful. That's what we want to learn to see, is the beauty in everything. And it's easy to start with a flower, isn't it? All right, let's see. What is the Christ? Christ is God's Son as He created Him. He is the self we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well. He is the thought which still abides within the mind that is His source. He has not left His holy home, nor lost the innocence in which He was created. He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God. Christ is the link that keeps you one with God and guarantees that separation is no more than an illusion of despair. For hope forever will abide in Him. Your mind is part of His and His of yours. He is the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. He remains untouched by anything the body's eyes perceive. For though in Him His Father placed the means for your salvation, yet does He remain the self who, like His Father, knows no sin. Home of the Holy Spirit and at home in God alone, does Christ remain at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. This is the only part of you that has reality and truth. The rest is dreams. Yet will these dreams be given unto Christ to fade before His glory and reveal your holy self, the Christ, to you at last. The Holy Spirit reaches from the Christ in you to all your dreams and bids them come to Him to be translated into truth. He will exchange them for the final dream which God appointed as the end of dreams. For when forgiveness rests upon the world and peace has come to every son of God, what could remain to keep things separate? For what remains to see except Christ's face? And how long will this holy face be seen, when it is but the symbol that the time for learning now is over, and the goal of the atonement has been reached at last? So therefore let us seek to find Christ's face, and look on nothing else. As we behold His glory, will we know we have no need of learning, or perception, or of time, or anything except the Holy Self, the Christ whom God created as His Son. Isn't that beautiful? What is the Christ? And of course that did yesterday. I hope you did well with Christ's is the vision I will use today. And today, how can illusions satisfy God's Son? How can illusions satisfy God's Son? Hey, and something I mentioned yesterday. I told you the other day that yesterday I was getting ready to tell you about my First Nations plant teacher, Wiley Barnes, and then I didn't tell you what he told me. I was getting ready to tell you about, and I told you quite a bit of neat stuff, but the thing I missed in all that was that some nuts, like hickory nuts, are very difficult to get out of the shell, even black walnuts. And so what a lot of First Nations people did is they would just they would beat the whole nut with a rock, and get it ground down, the whole thing, the shell, and they might have picked out the bigger pieces of shell, I'm not sure. But they basically didn't worry too much about separating the shell from the nut. They just broke the nut into pieces and got the nut really beat down, ground down. And then they'd put the whole lot of it in some water and bring it to a boil. Now, by doing that, you leach out all of the edible part of the nut, the oils, the fibers, and you strain that through a cloth, and now you have, whether it be hickory nut milk or walnut milk. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. There you get the nutrients without the tedious work and the long difficulty of trying to get those nuts out of some of those really hard shells. Just break the whole thing up and then bring it to put it in hot water or boil it, and now you have some hickory nut milk or whatever. And I suppose you could do the same thing with the acorns I was talking about. So I wanted to mention that. Then also a few days ago, I told you about the pansies, but I didn't ever tell you that their scientific name is Viola tricolor. And I think that was back on lesson 268. I don't know that that's all that important, but I am trying to be a little bit more so that you can go, do your own research and have a starting point to check your plants. All right, not that these plants are, any kind of plants you study, I'm just trying to encourage you to look into the world of plants. And your scientific name is a very much more accurate way to define one, because, some plants like dock might have 2 or 3. You get your burdock and sourdock, but if you just call it dock, now you're not sure which one it is. But if you go to your scientific name, you find out exactly which one you're talking about. So that's why it's valuable to use those Latin scientific names. All right, for our lesson for today one last time. And let's just keep in mind that we are not interested in holding on to illusions. They do not bring us joy. How can illusions satisfy God's Son? The prayer says, Father, the truth belongs to me. My home is set in heaven by your will and mine. Can dreams content me? Can illusions bring me happiness? What but your memory can satisfy your Son? I will accept no less than you have given me. I am surrounded by your love, forever still, forever gentle, and forever safe. God's Son must be as you created him. And then the write-up. Today we pass illusions by, and if we hear temptation call to us to stay and linger in a dream, we turn aside and ask ourselves if we, the sons of God, could be content with dreams, when heaven can be chosen just as easily as hell, and love will happily replace all fear. So if it's maybe just as easy to choose truth, it takes effort and great willingness, but it's just as easy to choose the truth. You just got to be willing to. And once you have, the joy is unspeakable. It completely contenting. Anyway, how can illusions satisfy God's Son? How can illusions satisfy God's Son? Oh, and one, I told you this was called a Montauk Daisy. It's also known as a Nippon Daisy. So it's 2 different names there, by the way. That's why we want to go with the scientific name, which is Nipponanthium nipponicum. And I don't know for sure I'm pronouncing it right. But anyway, until tomorrow, how can illusions satisfy God's Son? How can illusions satisfy God's Son?